Graphic design is fun. Graphic design is fun. You know what's fun about graphic design? Paychecks, 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 paychecks. I'm on the podcast. Yeah. Dirt and fart and sweat. Kick some serious ass. Stupid dirt and fart and sweat. Wow, isn't that a he bit a bat's head off? Damn, now just this beautiful little Canadian little piece of nougat, birthed from the loins of Canada.
Hey, what's going on, folks? Welcome back to the Graphic Design is Fun podcast. Today we are chatting with Aaron Draplin. That's right, folks. We are really doing it. I assume most people listening to this know who Aaron Draplin is. He's a bit of a celebrity in the graphic design world. But for those who may not, Aaron Draplin is a graphic designer. He runs the Draplin Design Company in Portland, Oregon, and he's been doing it for decades. He's worked with, everyone from his buddy's hot dog joint to NASA, the Obama administration, Nike, the list goes on. He's done hundreds and hundreds of speaking gigs and, TED Talks all over the United States and beyond. He's the co-founder of Field Notes, which is a massive empire in itself. He's truly a larger-than-life personality, but also just a really sweet guy. He was nothing but nice to me, going back and forth over email and sitting down to do this podcast. We're lucky to have him, and I was lucky to get to hang out with him for, an hour or whatever. Also, I'll be uploading some video clips from this episode to YouTube, just kind of for fun, and wanted to try it out. Probably most of the episodes will continue to be audio only, but, I figured for Draplin it was a bit of a special occasion. So there'll be a link in the podcast show notes if you want to check that out, see the man in action. Also down there will be links to Aaron's website, Aaron's merch, his Skillshare courses, Field Notes. There'll probably be a lot of links because Aaron Draplin does a lot of things. Anyway, let's get into it. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation with Aaron Draplin. All right, let's get into it, Mr. Draplin. Well, actually, first of all, before we really get into it, obviously, I really appreciate you doing this. Huge thank you. I guess you pretty much say yes to anyone, but it does mean a lot that you would do this. It's really cool.
Well, I mean, I work all day, so it's like you got to take a break from that. Like yesterday, I was you guys want to talk about fun graphic design? I cleaned my driveway. You got to blow it, rake it, scoop it up, shit like that. And it's like, is that graphic design? But no, it's a chance to go and actually scoop up some dirt and power wash and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, that is just part and parcel with just trying to keep all of the perception back here, that we live in a clean place, it's like if you walk out and there's shit all over the driveway, it's no different than my desk. If the driveway's trashed, I'll avoid it because it means I have a couple hours of diligence, to be diligent and go get in there and clean it. So what I'm getting at here is just, the day is one big sprinkle of lots of different things. It's not just graphic design. When we're done with this, I have to build an invoice to kick off a project. And that is just, that's part of graphic design, but that is just like paperwork, but it'll take me 20 minutes and I'll have to go reread it and all the legal beagle and all that kind of stuff, but that's all. Is that graphic design? It's part of it, so. Yeah,
it's, you're so organized. Like you're a big fan of being clean and organized in your office and digitally as well is something that you've talked about a lot, really cleaning up your files. And I feel like you take pride in that, which is probably something everyone can learn from,
Well, it's also a necessary set of evils because if you're not tight with your shit, you're wasting time. That applies to you. That applies to my mess. It applies to people that are really big in this game. You'll see that. It's like what's scary is when you go work for some big project and you start seeing their files and it's a bunch of hacked shit. Like, I'm not allowed to do that because you're just wasting people's time. You're wasting resources. You're wasting your currency with someone. So if you're sloppy with your files, that will come back to bite you in weird ways. And I'm just really careful about that. I don't want to be that person that ever is known for that. So on a functional level, though, it's also just like, when I start my day, my desktop is cleaned off. When I end my day, like it's just a big nightmare. But part of that is putting that stuff away and then coming back the next morning and be able to start with a fresh start, right? Making lists with all the stuff that I, accomplish in a day. It's like at the end of the day, I'll count those things, and it's 17 or 18 things, of which might be a call to my mom, might be, cleaning off the driveway, dealing with a Zoom call, whatever, or a podcast with you. That's all part of the deal here. And I'm thankful to go ape shit like that. At the end of the day, I always look back at my list that I made and go, oh man, I was lucky to do that for a day,
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, and that's another thing that you've mentioned many times. It's like just how grateful like we should be to be doing this work. It's cool stuff. Let's go back. I mean, maybe this is a big question or whatever, but going back to when you were younger, what was it that made you go into graphic design as opposed to all the other things I'm sure you could have? And what is it that's kind of kept you in it for all these decades and kept you so passionate about it?
well, it's a fun question, man. You know, when you get out of high school and you have these very succinct opportunities to like go, like I was a kid who at least was lucky to have the opportunity to go to even a community college. And my mom and dad didn't have that. They did, but they were raising their little brothers and sisters, or my dad was already working a job, and then little Aaron Draplin comes along, these sorts of things. It's like I had this really like pinpointed moment where I was like 17 years old, and it's like, well, what do I want to go do? Now, I almost went to engineering school until I went up and saw what engineers kind of looked like, acted like, it was intense. It scared me away. So what's next? Well, I loved CAD. I loved the sort of economical quality of like how to get all this work done on this little piece of software. That was really interesting to me, and I was good at it, right? Because I saw the writing on the wall. You can use a computer to make blueprints so people can go build homes. Fuck yeah, you can. And I can make money. That was going to be better than my pizza job. So here's the deal. When the engineering thing just looked a little too mathy for me, I always loved art growing up. And what that meant was emulating skateboard graphics. I mean, you can see this in the book, but it meant like I was the guy that could do hand lettering on someone's grip tape on their skateboard, right? I could take that logo that they wanted and put it over there. So I had something in me that was interested in like being a service person for some rat skateboard buddy of mine. I liked that. And you could trade for things. So, okay, that's where this comes out of. And also the fear that like my dad was always someone to tell me like, Aaron, I wasn't able to go to school, and what could I have done for us in the family? I have a great mom. I had a great mom and dad, and I was very lucky. My mom's still around. My dad, he's dead as shit. We're coming up on 9 years of the demise of my pops, but people die. It's all right. I had him for 40 years of my life, right? So it's 39.999. But it's like when you look at all that stuff and say, man, all this stuff factors. What are your options? And there were times I felt like I didn't have a lot of options. So I just knew I had one little point. And it was like, what was cool about graphic design was like, if I'm going to go focus on this one thing, it was pragmatic. People needed graphic design just to make a regular old newspaper. But there was a side of it that the engineers didn't have that had art, color, typefaces, cool things, a little bit of romance to it too. Like, wow, it's creative and cool. And look at all these typefaces, and still had this very regimented quality of like, to this day, I love to take a big page of shit and rebuild it because I'll find opportunities to make it better or more consistent or whatever. And that's just A to B. It's not very cool, but it's functional. And that's a talent to be able to have. So understanding as a kid, well, even at its worst, you still get to be on computers and clean and inside, because I knew up to that point what it was like to work outside. I mean, I know it sounds funny, but I knew what it was like to, a couple of years later, work up in Alaska on a train, and it sucked. So you quickly make a plan to say, oh, I'm going to go figure this out. But see, I did an associate's degree from 17 to 19, did pretty well, learned how to, turn the machines on, how to use them, how to love it. But at 19, understanding that life is fleeting, we went out west as kids. So that's contrarian to like, how did you know you want to go do this? No, I want to go be a snowboarder with my buddies, right? And you're only going to have those knees and that health and that sort of dumbassery inside you to not make good decisions for what? I did it for 5 winters. In the summers, I was going to Alaska. That's how I bought my computer. Now, you've probably heard all this shit 52 times if you've been listening to this stuff. But I knew from the very start, like, oh, if I can get into this graphic design stuff, it's a nice sprinkle of, you can pay your rent. You can also work on cool creative things. What if they're shitty things? Well, you can still make those creative too. You know what I mean? And I just never lost sight of that. I still haven't lost sight of that. Today, even, working on whatever I worked on today, it's like, that's still pretty cool. Still to this day. I mean, and by the way, all you get to flag is like, well, what's the alternative like? Well, my alternatives were pizza jobs, washing dishes up in Alaska, cooking up in Alaska. When I got my first design gig and was inside and was clean and got to use cool software and like saw all the stuff that went with it, I was hooked.
Yeah.
So I also knew that like, wow, you get to be around this and pay off your school loans and shit. Done. Because people go be all kinds of different stuff to to get out of the hole. I use graphic design to get out of the hole. Pretty lucky.
Can we actually talk a bit about your days in Alaska? I once worked as a dishwasher myself, for quite a bit, and I wasn't on a train and I wasn't in Alaska, but no, I mean it sounds like it would have been rough, but also maybe a bit of an adventure. I don't know, like what was that like up in Alaska?
No, it's all transient people. They're all healthy and cool, and every now and again we get some derelict up there, But what it was is, first of all, you're on this sightseeing train, and out of Anchorage. So this train goes from somewhere south of Anchorage, and then they pick the people off the big cruise ship. They pick them up off the cruise ship. They just got done eating and fighting and screwing and eating and throwing people over the side off these big cruise ships that come up the Canadian coast, right? Now, if we catch them at the end of that, they want nothing to do with us because they've been fed full for like 5 nights, right? But if they flew into Anchorage and we're just grabbing them and we're going to take them through the interior of Alaska, they get to the end of that or whatever that is, and then they get on these cruise ships somewhere in Anchorage, and they go all the way down to Seattle. We're catching them when they're still excited to pay for the food, right? So, okay, you go up there. There's summer jobs. 5 months. I would get up there. We would leave at the end of April. We get up there, be on the trains working somewhere in the first week in May. My first 2 summers, it was summer of 96 and 97, I would have been like 23, right? And, I didn't have a computer. And how was I going to make that money? The year previous, in the summer of 95, I was 22 or something. I worked all summer long at this coveted summer job in Oregon, working at a snowboard camp. And these are cool jobs. But at the end of the summer, 10-week cycle, I think I had $200 left. Like that's all I really netted. And that was not enough to go into another winter. Right. So it was like, luckily I went back to my hometown that summer of 95, got a bunch of freelance gigs, painting futon covers, made $3,000. And that 1 month of doing all that work for 3 or 4 weeks, that padded my entire winter. Right. These were small gains, whatever. And then you would go. So knowing that, here's this opportunity to make $10,000 in a summer. I did that first summer. The adventure side is like, damn, we're going to Alaska. What does that even mean? I remember stocking up on batteries and extra notebooks and shit. And it's like, you get there and on the way from the airport to where you're going to be staying at a buddy's place to crash, you're going past Targets and shit. And you're just like, like it's the adventure, because not knowing the entire scope of what I was getting into, it's like in my mind of minds I thought I was going to some like fish camp or something somewhere, and you'd be dropped off in the boonies, and you're just going to have what you have in your backpack. I get up there, it's a modern city, it's cool, it's a couple 100,000 people. That adventure kept bringing me back, or just this sort of dislocation from the lower 48. It was fun to go up there. I could hyper focus every year. 10,000, 12,000, 14,000, 17,000. I would make a little bit more. I'd learn tricks how to make a little bit more. I would make a t-shirt, sell it to all the fuckwit people I worked with on the train. I would screen print that thing. Dan, you should have saw me on my bike doing multiple, I'm on a mountain bike. It's in the back behind the house here. Mountain bike, a Cannondale mountain bike. I've got 120 t-shirts folded up inside this box, and I'm wiggling this sumbitch back to our apartment. And I get there, I drop it off, and I got to ride all the way back across town to the screen printer, right? I did that, and I would make an extra $2,000 or something on these t-shirts. Because in Anchorage, if you went downtown, what were the tourist shirts like? Well, they were shitty. I'm sure there's a part of Toronto where you get the trinkets, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they might be cool. In Anchorage at the time, the CK logo, Calvin Klein on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay, big C, little K. These were big in 1996. And they did a AK. Wow, isn't that interesting? Alaska. Okay. Stupid. So I understood that people didn't want that shit, but they wanted a souvenir, and I would make our own with our own language and our own graphics and our own stuff. And here's the deal. Even up there working all summer long, I didn't have a computer. So I would go rent one at Kinko's. If I didn't have a computer, I was still drawing all the time. I bought a guitar. I was learning to play guitar. Like, I wasn't using my time to just drink and party down and, whatever it was. Other people were up there just to do that, because you're in this beautiful, adventurous place. You're shooting at everything that isn't nailed down. You're drinking, fighting, screwing, all that kind of great stuff. But that's not, I brought back $11,000 or something, maybe $10,500. I spent 10,000 of it on a computer. And that's how I got access to this shit. That was in 96, the fall of 96. Still have it. And I'm never going to get rid of that thing. It's this big power computing Mac clone from the, what year were you born, Dan?
1997.
The year you were born. 1 year later, a little Dan out, just this beautiful little Canadian little piece of nougat, birthed from the loins of Canada. Well, you still have your youth, man. That's kick ass, man. Enjoy that. Use it wisely, right? I was up there chasing a buck.
Yeah.
Right. And it became this thing where I couldn't say no. I did it 4 summers. And then, I was going back to Minneapolis to go to school to finish up my school. But, here's the thing. You only get so many cards to play. Play them wisely. And then play a bunch of hands, a lot of metaphors. The idea is you can go do a lot of different things, The idea that you could go work the next 5 years doing podcasts and freelance, and then at 30, reinvent yourself and not even be a graphic designer. We should talk about that, because kids need to know that this isn't your parents' 2022s. You know what I mean? You could be lots of different things, but you got to play your cards right, to set yourself up for that kind of success, So, I landed in graphic design and had everything I needed. Now, all these years later, shit's still working, so I'm very happy for that.
That is beautiful. I could listen to you just talking bullshit all day. I feel like
bullshit about I was lying the whole time. I was living with a bear up there. That son bitch would climb on me in the middle of the night. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. No, I did used to I would rent the corner of a living room, and this dog would come climb on me.
In Alaska?
Yeah. So we would have 6 people in a place that was only like maybe 2.5 people at any given time. But I only rented the corner of a living room, right? And this dog would come over, and I'd just go, "Get out of here, dog. I don't want nothing to do with you." Because he'd want to just like snuggle. Anyway, some shit dog. Anyway, okay, sorry. Next question.
That's okay. What is my next question? I don't know. Well, why don't we talk about this? I know you've met Obama, and the logos you worked on for Obama, or for the Obama administration. What was that like, and how did you get that call?
Well, I was pinch hitting. It's not like I got a call from Barack Obama. I mean
Right. No.
I know, but the weird part about this is as the years go by, the old fish gets pretty big. Pretty soon, I caught a goddamn blue whale. No, you didn't. I got a call from an agency in Chicago that worked with, little baby Senator Obama, community organizer Obama, lawyer Obama, Mr. Barack Obama, all the different things that he lived before becoming a senator and then, of course, a president. So these guys worked with him and he trusted him. And then, they helped him make the logo for his campaign. And then I come along and I'm just a name in a sea of names of like who could work on this project with us. So, that's the way that thing went. And by the way, it's not like I'm talking to the White House, I'm talking to an agency who's talking to the White House. I work for the agency. They were called the Mode Project, still going, great group of people, and said, just, give us your best pass. And I worked with my buddy Chris Glass on this thing. So it's the two of us. He got the one, I got a little one, and, we worked together just in tandem to get the whole thing all done and wrapped up. The scary part was just that who's looking at this stuff? That's what I remember being afraid of the most. I'm on the podcast. Yeah. Little moonbeam. And she's lovely. She really is. She's a breath of fresh air. She's walking away right now, just sitting there talking about yourself again. This shit's weird. It's like
What's weird?
What's weird is sending a PDF off and not knowing who the fuck's looking at it. Is it Michelle and Barack look at this thing over dinner, on a phone? Like, I still don't really know. Someone made a call, and just to get that close to that excitement, because here we go, Canada. I'm gonna say something, and some Tim Horton dipshit's gonna call me and be like, I can't believe you would say what America did to the world. That was the greatest president of my lifetime. The end. Did I agree with everything? Hell no. But I appreciated his poise, his grace, and his wit and intelligence, considering who came afterwards. Fuck, man, what a stinking shit pile. No offense to shit. Shit's a part of life. But that guy shouldn't even be on the planet.
No offense to shit.
I mean, no offense. It's like if you say Don Trump or a pile of shit, I go roll around the pile of shit. At least it's honest. You know what I'm saying? So, it's fun to see the comments rolling after that people kind of defend him still. Got one the other day. Someone's still defending that motherfucker. So anyway, well, nix all this stuff out if I'm getting too spicy. Anyway.
No, you can get spicy. I mean, is that something that you do encounter a lot? Because I mean, which I feel like most people love how vocal you are, and just in the middle of an Adobe Max speech saying "fuck Donald Trump."
I was just testing the mic, Dan. I was like, you got to do a sound check. I don't want to sound too mature or academic, but you know what? If some stupid asshole wants to believe in that guy, they have the right to. It's sad. Do I think Biden's the answer? Oh, no, he's old as shit, but I would have voted for this little pencil lead right here if it got in the ballot over the other guy. To go and express that. It's out of fear. Whose mind am I going to change in that crowd? That's not my plight. But the idea of if some asshole wants to believe in him and I make them uncomfortable, is that my job? There's a little bit of that. Like, I just want to push people. But also, I'd have people, very thoughtful people, come up and be like, listen, I vote the same way you do, but I'd rather hear you talk about your graphic design. And it was like, yeah, but this is part of it. We were resisting. I just could not say something because it's dangerous. And then you would see young kids who were like, ha ha, he's like kind of punk rock in his own way. Oh yeah. But no, it's the worst of the worst. And they propped up a piece of shit and we're still dealing with it, and it's just like, I couldn't, so I just don't know where that stuff even stands in there. And sometimes I feel embarrassed. I would like be as bummed as I would and let it fly. and just make fun of him. The guy's a bully. And that's what I still can't really like wrap my head around, is like, how could it, so whatever. It's hopefully, he's just done and we've moved past him. But I think a lot of that stuff is to say, go help your local people that you believe in and use your design for good. I use my design to help Bernie Sanders, AOC, Barack Obama, some pretty spicy stuff and some pretty controversial things that make people get all, amped up and then flip out. But I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. There wasn't a lot of money attached, but hopefully I moved the needle, my dumb little that one little droplet, to actually helping every kind of person, not just those who can afford it. And that is some real democratic idealism. You know what I mean? Like the Democratic Party, whatever. So, you meet people from Canada and they'll say, yeah, but you know what America does for the world. I know. I have ideas, Anyway, get me out of this. You got me into this, Dan. Get me out of that. That's
all right. Let's talk about Pantones. Well, you mentioned Canada now a couple times, and because you have these collected posters of all the different states, and you have one of Canada, and it's not the level of detail, but like you really hit on all the big kind of iconic symbols. Like, have you spent a lot of time in Canada, or how did you? Because you got them all. I mean, you got the old CBC logo, you got the Centennial logo, you got all the CN and Via and Go, and you really like. I mean, I spent my whole life in Canada, and these are like the symbols I grew up with. But you assume that someone from the States, they've seen the Toronto Maple Leafs logo or something, and that's about it.
Well, first things first, man. I've always loved Canada, and I've always loved the stoic quality. We don't need you, America. I always like that. Hockey players are cool. Whatever. They're kind of tough and shit. I know that's a big. Whatever. What do we have? But it's like I always dug going to Canada. It was always a little bit different, a little bit more open-minded, and had a little bit bigger view of the world because they were part of a larger world, under the Queen's, whatever the hell it was. Okay. So it was exciting as a kid from Michigan who only knew Michigan, and you go across that border into Sault Ste. Marie, where I, close to where I grew up. And there was it's the same dirt and fart and sweat as anything else, right? In Michigan, right? It's the same dirt, but it would be a little bit different, different accents. That's always exotic and fun and just interesting. So as a kid growing up, what I noticed is these guys had better logos. That's the fact of the matter.
Hey, let's go.
Well, it's part and parcel with, being like a citizen of the world and understanding what works on a larger global level. When you come into Canada, this is a weird compliment, your customs forms are better. Because here we make them maybe even harder because we don't want you to come in or something. No, they're like all kinds of families can go there. And I know what a diverse place Toronto is. I've always enjoyed going there. I wouldn't mind living there someday. It's a cool city. And it would be close to
you can rent the corner of my living room if you want.
The two of us could kick that town's ass. Sorry, I have to bring a girlfriend with me. I'm off the market, Dan. But are you on the market or off the market? What's your story?
I'm off the market. I have a girlfriend.
Okay, well then it's a good thing because me and you could have kicked some serious ass. The two of us working our way across the town. I don't need to get into details. I just appreciate it. Appreciate the thoughtfulness, the craft. So when you get to go do that, it quickly dissolves into these make sure you look at the sports teams. Some point you're looking at all the big shit, airports, the cool things. By the way, there's a lot of logos I saw in Canada that weren't all that cool. You don't celebrate those. You use the good stuff from that region. But you look at all these sorts of just aspects of a town, right? What is their cultural thing? What's the river logo look like? What's the trash logo look like? And you start doing that stuff. Before you know it, you got your shit filled. And, it wasn't hard to do in Canada. Just wasn't hard to do, and we could do that, of course, anywhere you go, but you start to learn how to then go a little one step, just do a province, and you start looking at, British Columbia, you look at all the stuff that does not happen up above Vancouver and how it just turns into no man's land pretty quick. That'd be harder to find stuff. It'd be harder because there's just area of nothing and beauty and grandeur. I used to drive that up to Alaska, right? But, it's those maps or whatever you want to call it. They're celebrations in timeless graphic design and yet how that shit still works and applies to what we do today. Do not throw out this hockey rink logo from 1974. Don't throw it out. It could still be on the hockey rink today, and it would be awesome as a t-shirt. That's the lesson, right? And I just like celebrating that shit. I don't want to forget those things. I use that stuff in my own travels, in my own designing, to look and go, what did they do really nice in Arkansas? Oh, well, there was that, and there was this, and there was that, and there was this. I didn't show the lemons, the shit that was dumb or something. So it was poorly executed, we'll say. I showed the good stuff to hopefully, inspire, me, that when you go to Canada, you keep your eyes open, and they're even just the post office is just a little bit cooler, So it's a celebration of that, and I don't know, I hope that brings joy to people, and it's a certain kind of therapy, to go in and do that. I'm halfway through New Jersey right now. And I've been really enjoying that because it's mindless, it's fun. I don't have to tonight I have to work on something a little later where it's like, I really got to turn everything off and really just hammer. So, when I get to do something like that, it's a privilege, and try to enjoy it.
I have this question because I love how you proudly will say, I did this logo and that one was 30 grand, and I did this logo and they bought me a burrito. I mean, has that ever been an issue where because I feel like once you've said you've done work for a burrito, you kind of lose some negotiating power, in saying hey, I want to be paid this much, or this is how much this is going to cost. And they say, well, you did this for $50. I mean, has that ever been an issue for you, or not really?
I mean, the metaphor of that is just be open to when your asshole friends want to give you a burrito. There's nothing wrong with that. People like to make fun of that and say, oh my God, the client didn't pay us anything. Why'd you take the job? What do you expect? It's for your scumbag friends and some shitty band that no one, you know what I mean? It's like, what do you expect? There's no money. You get paid a burrito maybe, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with that. The fun part about that is you worked for your friends, you made something cool, you made them look a little bit bigger than they are. It's a portfolio piece. You know what I mean? Why is that a dirty word? So that's why I would do that whole thing, because the funny part about it is the stuff that got paid 25, 30, 50. I've hit some big records, 100 grand, whatever. I don't need to get into the details of these things, but I don't even think about them anymore. I think about when I worked for my buddy and there was no money involved because it came from the heart. It wasn't soiled with emails, meetings, confusion, starting you, stopping you, breaking your fucking heart. There's heartbreak with those big jobs that you never ever see coming. Sure, you got paid a bunch of cash, but when they don't use it in the end, that sucks. So the reason I've ever talked about this stuff, because no one would. And the idea that you are not going to get paid 100 grand for logos. I get lucky every now and again. It's not just a logo, it's a big system of stuff, right? When you're at that level. Maybe someone does. You're going to get paid a couple grand. Be okay with it. Because the way to think about it is, oh, I only got $2,500. How much is your rent, Dan? And you go, oh, I pay $1,250 for my apartment. Well, that's 2 months of rent. What about the other 10 months? Do a couple more logos. See, that's the way I always looked at this stuff. Oh, it's not the best price, but who gives a shit? They don't know that I did it in 14 minutes. You know what I mean? Sometimes it was 14 days or 14 hours or 140 hours. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what about the times I did it in 14 minutes and then had to wait 6 more days because it was like, I don't want to talk until 1 more week from now, that kind of thing. That shit happened a lot. So that's our job, to manage that weirdness or talent or whole shot. Other times when I didn't hit it, I got to do the work, sketch and sketch and sketch, refine. I love to share that stuff out there because we need to talk about that too. It's not always just going to come to you, right? How do you do the work? So, the money thing is weird because everyone likes to hide it, and I get it's not appropriate. Ask people their ages, and Aaron Draplin, what is that flap on your side? You don't talk about those things, but if you can kind of break some of that stuff down, maybe you kind of can, and then say, yeah, this is what my budget is. Let's just get down to the nuts and bolts. how do you pay your day, Dan? I could ask you that. You could ask me my day. Well, I'd say, oh, here's how I do it. I kind of know what my budget is. And after a while, and this was 18 years ago, I got to the point where you get $1,000 in the bank, you get 5,000 in the bank, you get 10 grand in the bank. What happens when you get 100, or I flip it around, 100 grand in the bank? You know what I mean? It's like, before you know that, my set of ideals and perseverance still has not changed, but I got ahead, and it allowed me to dream more. It allowed me to chill out. And I realized these systems that we are placed in, it's all been designed. Sounds a little conspiratorial, but a kid takes out a big loan, and he's he has a hard time paying that loan back. So did I, but I paid it back. You know what I mean? I paid it back, and when I paid it back, I got a little bit taller. But that was that. We don't even know how to even talk about that stuff. So the same way, when you're like, well, what do you make a year, and what do you make a living, and all this kind of stuff, I just knew that the harder you work, the quicker you're going to get ahead, and you're going to be able to get out in front of these things and not let them hold you down, And somewhere in there, it wasn't just about the money anymore. It was also about creative freedom and the ability to express myself, and understanding, oh shit, here comes a job that's worth X amount of bucks in time. Get that out of the way, because it opens up all this other space for this stuff. I'm doing that to this day, but I'm just proud to report back to you or anyone listening that, we were talking about it today. We were driving around Portland here, and it was like, if someone here is listening, I know what it's like to feel the pinch of having almost nothing in your bank account, maybe a couple $100, and riding that fine line. I know what that's like, but I haven't felt that in a whole lot of years, because for so many years, that's all I ever had. So the art in that predicament is to how to stay close to the bone, be creative on a small little bit, so you're not chewing into that $1,000 you have saved up. But what happens when you get 5,000 saved up? I could sleep a little bit better. What happens when you start, and it just goes up and up and up? Well, because my expenses were going down, and I was getting less and less car payments and less things, and I was taking care of my stuff, So I know all this sounds idealized, and I could just be talking just a big load of shit too at all times with these things, but that is how it went. It wasn't always the coolest. So I would build it into this sort of triumphant, tragic story of like, I'm up here making this money because that's all. Like, no, man, it was a privilege even to go up there, right? And then come and buy those computers. So, what's the story I make today? What a privilege to get away with all this, right? Be a good citizen when you're on the clock. Tight files. Be nice to work with, be nice to work with. And that takes being very mindful on all those different, little flaps and, curves and bends and stuff of a project, in your life, we'll say. Does this sound good, Dan?
This sounds good. Here, let me hit you with some rapid fire, and we'll wrap it up. Okay.
Buckle up for this. Let me buckle up. All right.
Yeah, you really got to strap in. This is gonna get insane. Okay. Favorite fast food?
We have to get to the things that are indictable right away. If she's listening, I'm a Big Mac. Place called McDonald's. Look it up. It'd be a better answer. Go to Super Deluxe Burger here in Portland. I'm one of the owners. A little tiny little owner. But who doesn't love a cheeseburger? What about you?
What about me? I like Popeyes. Like
we got one right up the way, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. That shit's so dangerous. And my girlfriend loves Popeyes.
Oh, really? About once a year, you really go roll the dice. Delicious as the day is long, but I don't need to get into the plumbing of that situation. You are playing with fire. You know what I mean? Yeah. Okay. I know Popeyes. Shit, yeah.
What's the last movie you watched?
A couple of nights ago, I watched the Randy Rhoads Ozzy Osbourne guitar documentary. Yeah, it's okay, but as a young kid who was 8 or 9 years old, I remember when Ozzy Osbourne was going across America on his, when he bit you might not even know about this, but he bit a bat's head off. And it was this big controversial thing. Someone threw a bat on the stage. He thought it was a toy. He was all hammered, bit the thing off, and it was shit and whatever. And everyone's, it's drunk. Yeah, this happened, 81, 82. I was a little kid and I could hear them. We were at my aunt's place in a place called Charlevoix, Michigan. And there was a place called Castle Farms up in Charlevoix. And that's where I saw Metallica, 7 or 8, 10 years later when I was 17, 18, 19, whatever. Well, Castle Farms was the place you go see bands. But when I was 8 or 9 years old, the guy that bit the head off of the bat, he's playing and I can hear their music from here. It's Ozzy Osbourne, Crazy Train, and all that shit. Okay. And to watch that documentary, it's like, damn, I love documentaries. That's my favorite thing to watch.
Yeah, me too. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I've never heard of that. I mean, I know some of Ozzy Osbourne's music. That's a pretty wild story. So the bat was dead.
It was dead. And the lore listen, this is before the internet. So this had to be reported in like newspapers and shit. And it was like, who is this evil character? And it's one of these shock things. And did that really happen? Who knows if it happens? When you see it in the documentary, they say someone threw a dead bat in the stage and he thought it was a prop and he thought it'd be funny to, rip the thing off. There's no footage of that, but the lore, who knows what happened?
Wow.
Anyway, yeah, that's what I watch.
I'm loving this rapid fire round. When this one, I'm really curious. When was the last time you fully shaved your beard, like fully off?
When I had to go to court and give you that character deposition thing, because you were throwing rocks at cars in Toronto, and that's when I shaved and really tried to clean up my act to go in. He's a nice kid. He's a good, clean kid. Don't throw the book at him. That's the last time I shaved. Dan, it might have been before your time. No, I want to say probably about 2003 or 4. This isn't some fashion statement. It's like the idea is comfort, being comfortable in your skin relatively, and not beating yourself up, and being okay with what the universe gave you, whatever that means. So, yeah.
Damn, very true. Okay, last 2 questions. Favorite color?
I'm gonna go with a good strong Pantone Orange 21.
And last one, favorite font?
I love Futura Bold. We're in the mindset of just communicating, like, field notes can just be that. That's like a cool thing that we kind of designed around. It doesn't have to be anything flashy. It can just be pure function. That's a design in itself. But I will say probably the one that, Helvetica always just grabs me because it's legible, it works, it's beautiful, and sentence case or whatever you want to call it, it's beautiful in all caps. It's like it works. And with that, what Helvetica Noi or whatever that thing is, with the like 7 or 8 weights, you can create an entire fucking universe with that thing. From the tiny little moments, footnotes and things and details and shit, up to big old chompy headlines. I love that stuff. That Swiss kind of system, there's something to glean from that, So I don't know, DDC Hardware made it. You can go buy it, you guys, and that thing is pretty unfuckwithable, as a display face. You don't want to set a term paper in that thing. It's more like it works. It's just it's not meant to be cool. It's meant to work. So proud of that.
Just like you, Aaron.
That's right. Not that pretty, but man, it can really. Don't set your term paper with Aaron Draplin. Just let him say, I don't know what I'm talking about. Well, Dan, let's wrap this thing up, and I'm going to go have some sad little piece of chicken and a pile of something green. And, that's what we're having.
That's healthy. That's good.
Oh, don't. Party's over here, man. If I do.
No more Popeyes.
Oh, my God. If I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to be your size by the year 2052. Okay.
Let's go.
Glacially getting down to Dan, Dan's, we'll see. But, well, thanks, man. Take care.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode of the Graphic Design is Fun podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps others find the show, so it would be very much appreciated. If you have any feedback, any suggestions, or just want to say hello, you can shoot me a message at Dan Allen Studio on Instagram or Twitter. If you love the podcast, if you hate the podcast, whatever you got, I would love to hear it. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.